good morning. Welcome to the warehouse. Please stand with us as we get going this morning. I just want to remind everybody with the time change, we have extra coffee made. So if you need some of that to start your morning, see Mr. Wayne over at the coffee bar. And thank you for joining us for worship.
This table that you prepared for me, in the presence of my enemy. It's your body, your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, it's a table that you prepared for me, presence of my enemy. It's your body, your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, and I believe you'll overcome, and I will lift my song. I'll praise for all you've done. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. In the valley, I know that you're with me, and surely your goodness and your mercy follow me. My weapons of praise and thanksgiving. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, and I believe you'll overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for all you've done. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you.
Worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised.
Amen. You can sit down for a second. As I reiterated earlier, with the time change, you can get up and get some coffee. Heck, you can even get up and walk around if you need to, or do jumping jacks, or whatever it takes you to get through the morning. Again, thank you for joining us at the warehouse. We are very thankful you chose to get up and worship with us this morning, as hard as that may have been. I want to remind everybody about your announcements that are found in the bulletin. They're outside, and so if you didn't get one, you can grab one on the way out. But basically where we are now as a church, luckily due to the numbers going down and people starting to get vaccinated, is we've resumed most of our activities. We're very excited about that. We're back to children and youth programs, and our Wednesday night supper is up and going. Actually, for something that started back, the crowd is pretty good. The food's excellent. So if that's something you might be interested in, call the church office or give us an email, and we will make sure that you get plugged into that. So we want to make sure everybody's aware that our activities have started back. At this time, we have a special announcement. Miss Patsy Ford, who represents the United Methodist Women, is going to come up and make a presentation.
Good morning. It's good to be with you this morning. And as Rick said, it is early. It came early this morning, but the Lord blessed us with a beautiful day. I am Patsy Ford. I'm the president of the United Methodist Women. And we promote missions in our church. And every year we give out a certificate to those we feel have gone beyond, helped lead us, helped make us stronger, strive to do better. And that is called the Quiet Disciple. Quiet disciple. What in the world is that? Somebody that sits around and just keeps their mouth shut? No. A quiet disciple has the characteristics of two people, Mary and Martha. As you know, those two ladies were the sisters of Lazarus, who is probably Jesus' closest and dearest friend. And anytime he was in their area, he was always at their house. Now Mary, all she wanted to do was to sit and be in Jesus' presence, to hear him speak, to hear him teach. She just wanted to soak it all in. And Martha, I believe she wanted to do that, but she was so, she just had to do something. She was the doer. She wanted to make sure that Jesus and anybody else that came to her house was welcome and had everything they possibly needed. So she was always busy doing something. So a quiet disciple is somebody that wants to be in the presence of God, that listens to him, that follows his leading, and then does it. Gets up and does it. So most of you, like myself, have come through 2020 with our heads up, feeling good, most of the time. But we've had a rough year this past 2020. And so the Camilla United Methodist Church wants to recognize and say thank you so much to the leaders of our church and how much we appreciate the fact that they went beyond, that they led us and kept us connected as a church family. And so today, the quiet disciples are Rick Waters, and Andrea and Cody Gaines. We appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. There's a lot of people in this church that have gotten that award, so that award really means a lot, because there's some strong, strong leaders in this church over the years who've gotten that award. Thank you, Miss Patsy. Miss Patsy has and I have been close ever since I was this tall in the church. And it's funny, we did not discuss this, but the song we're going to do right now before the sermon is a song about Lazarus. So please stand with us.
Sometimes we talk about some things. Anyway, this is a story that I thought, everybody knows the story of Jesus clearing the temple. But I found out everybody don't. And it's kind of surprised me until I was talking to my grandson here a few weeks ago, and I mentioned a common Bible story, and he looked at me with a blank look on his face. And now he's 11 years old. He's been in church and about every Sunday all of his life. But I got to thinking, and you know what's wrong? We're not teaching these Bible stories. We've not, so many churches have done away with Sunday schools. They have church services of 1,000 people. but they don't have a Sunday school. And you parents and grandparents, it is important that we teach these stories. I had a lady ask me one day, I had gotten through teaching a Sunday school class, and she said, "How do you know so much about the Bible? You must study it all." No, I do not study near as much as I should. Where did I learn my Bible? I learned it when I was about that high in a Sunday school class. That's enough of that. The Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And in the temple he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons and the money changers sitting there. And making a whip of cords, he drove them out of the temple with the sheep and oxen, and he poured out the coins of the money changers, and he overturned their tables, and he told those who sold the pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." And his disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." So the Jews said to him, "What sign do you show us for doing these things?" And Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up." And the Jews then said, "It's taken 46 years to build this temple, and you'll raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. A little background to bring us up. Like I said, I've always been a teacher. I've never been much of a preacher. And I think we need to know a little history before we get too far along in things. But John has taken Jesus from his birth to his baptism, to his time in the wilderness, to his choosing his disciples. That was all in the first chapter. In the second chapter, he started out with the wedding in Cana. I mean, y'all know that story. What happened to Cana in the wedding? Come on, somebody. Turn the water into wine. Thank you. His first miracle. After that, he actually moved his family and his people, everybody, to the city of Capernaum. And that's a whole other story there. I'm not going to get into that one today. I haven't got time. But now it's coming up time for the Passover. And one thing Jesus did every year at Passover time, from the time he was 12 until the time of his crucifixion, was he went to Jerusalem for the Passover. If you were a Jew and you could make it to Jerusalem for the Passover, you did it. That was one of the big celebrations. Don't you know that town had to be crowded during that time? But it didn't matter whether you made it to the Passover or not. If you were a Jew during that time period, no matter where you lived in the world, you had one thing you wanted to do, and that was to come to the temple, come to Jerusalem sometime, and while you were there, visit the temple. And of course, when you visited the temple, you had two things you had to do. Number one, you had to bring some kind of an offering to be used as a burnt offering or a sacrifice to God. Now, if you were rich, you'd bring a cow, a bull. If you were medium rich, you might bring a sheep or a lamb. If you were poor like me, you'd probably have a dove or a pigeon. I couldn't even afford a dove. I'd have to carry a pigeon. And I'd have to get me a net and catch him, because I couldn't. Anyway, the other thing you had to do was you had to put an offering in the offering plate. Now, they didn't take just any kind of money for an offering. It had to be a certain type of coin. Well, if you didn't live in Jerusalem, you probably didn't have that coin in your pocket because you didn't use it anywhere else except right there in that little area. Well, what had happened over the years was, you know, people are businessmen, business people. Now, if you lived, let's say, somewhere in the neighborhood of Rome, and you were going to go to Jerusalem, and you wanted to sacrifice a cow, a bull, how are you going to get that bull from Rome to Jerusalem? You got to get him there somehow, haven't you? What's the easiest way to do it? The easiest way to do it really is to take the old, yeah, we can ride him if you want to. But the easiest way to do it is take that old bull out to somebody around Rome and sell it to him. Take that money and put it in your pocket. Go to Jerusalem. When you get there, find somebody there that's got a bull for sale that you can buy. And then you don't have to worry about feeding him and leading him or driving him or ever for 1,000 miles. Well, people caught on to that right quick. You get there and you don't have the coin of the temple in your pocket, you got the coin of Rome in your pocket. Well, I tell you what, I'll swap you the coins you need for the coins you've got. Okay? So they set up businesses. People started doing a business. I've got sheep. I've got doves. I've got bulls. I've got wheat. I've got wine. I'll sell it to you, and then you can carry it to the temple and present it. Therefore, you don't have to bring it all of this way. Now, if you've got a business, what's the three most important things about a successful business? What? Location, 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 right? I mean, you can have a very good business, but if it's where folks can't get to it, it's not going to be successful. Well, where's the best place to have a business if you're selling offerings for the temple? Right outside. Unless you can get inside. And that's where the mistake was made. As long as it was sitting outside, great. But when you went inside, what had you done? You had changed our place of worship to a place of business. How many times have we seen businesses, good ideas, that were taken too far? I've watched people go out of business because they tried to overextend. The second problem with it, well, there was three problems with them moving inside the temple. The first one, they made the place of worship into a place of business. The second thing they did was, how did they get in there? I mean, if you're going to have a business, you've got it in a location, you've got to pay for your location, correct? I mean, nobody's going to let you set up a business in their yard and not charge you for it, are they? Well, who did they pay? Who did they pay to get inside that temple? The priest. Now, what's that done for the priesthood? That has changed the priesthood from a servant to a businessman himself. He's selling a place in the church for people to make money? That's not right. And then third, the person who has got this business going on, I left Rome. I sold my bull for $100 in Rome. I've traveled all the way to Jerusalem now, and I want to buy a bull of just as good a breeding, just as good an animal to make my sacrifice. And I walk in there and I say, well, what do you take for that bull right there? He's just exactly what I want. I want $300 for it. Wait a minute, he isn't worth but $100. You want him? He's $300. Y'all remember the gas crunch, what happened? Gas went from 99 cents a gallon to $3 a gallon overnight. And the people that were buying the gas and selling it to you were still paying 90 cents for it. It's called price gouging. And these merchants was doing that. I'll trade you your coin 2 for 1. In other words, they had taken the temple, a place of worship, and made it a place of evil. And Jesus didn't like that. And he drove them out. He got his righteous indignation. Y'all try to say that word real fast. He built him a whip out of cords. Nothing that's going to hurt, but something that'll drive. And he ran them out. But notice something else. And I had never thought of that, of this until I started studying for today. He didn't destroy anything. He didn't destroy the livestock. He ran it out, ran them out. The guys that owned them, what could they do? They run after him. They didn't try to stop him from chasing them off. I mean, he done got them running before they could do anything about it. He didn't. They could go out, round them up. They still got their animals, had to work for it a little bit more. He didn't destroy it. The money changers. He walks by, he dumps all their money off on the floor. He didn't put it in his pocket. He didn't profit from it. But he got his message across. And I'm sure that by the time he got over to those folks that were selling those pigeons and those doves, they had done got the idea. He could have walked by and opened the gates, opened the doors on those cages and let them out in the air, couldn't he? But he didn't. What did he do? He said, get them out of my Father's house. And by that time, they decided, you know, it'd be a lot better if we got these things and we got out of him. When we see wrong being done, how many times do we kind of just turn our back and walk on away from it? Or do we get up on our high horse and we really put them down and we start talking? If we're going to make things right, what's Jesus' number one word? We must love. We've got to do it in love. But we've got to do it. We can't continue to turn our backs. Over the years, the Jews took the 10 Commandments and rewrote them into the Mosaic laws. Jesus said the Mosaic laws had changed the Ten Commandments from what they meant. And he's told them this is what they really mean. Have we taken the teachings of Jesus and begun to change them? Because Christianity, people, is 100% opposite from our human wants and needs. When we put our wants and needs above the wants and needs of God, then we are putting God second. That's what these merchants were doing in the temple. That's what the priests were doing in the temple. We have the Bible and Jesus' words to learn from. Let's not change them into our beliefs. Instead, let's change our beliefs into His. Rick?